You know this feeling. That mix of frustration and impatience that sits heavy in your chest because you're stuck watching the same old game, played by the same old players, with the same tired moves. Startups, they're supposed to shake things up, right? But more often than not, it's just noise. Flashy pitches, overpromises, hype that fizzles out before the finish line. You invest your time, your money, your trust, and what do you get? A revolving door of next big thing that somehow feels just as old as the one before it. It's exhausting. It's infuriating. And deep down, you wonder if the whole venture world is rigged to move in circles, while real change stays locked behind doors you can't open. But what if the power to break that cycle isn't with the startups? What if the real disruption, the real shakeup, comes from you? The limited partners who hold the keys, the ones who fund the funds, the ones who decide which ideas see the light of day and which remain shadows. You've been playing this role for decades, quietly. You've been the silent engine behind all the hype, watching from the sidelines, trying to find the right balance between risk and reward. But what if it's time to stop watching, stop trying to fit into the old game, and start rewriting the rules entirely? The truth is, your position is more powerful than you might think. Limited partners aren't just passive investors. You are the gatekeepers of the future, whether you realize it or not. You hold the leverage to push the venture world in directions no startup alone ever could. But that power only becomes real when it's wielded with intention, with courage, and with an unshakable commitment to rip apart the comfortable illusions that have kept the system static for too long. Here's the thing. You're caught in a trap that looks like freedom, but feels like chains. The industry sells you the promise of diversification, risk management, and incremental gains. But what if that's a lie that's been wrapped in spreadsheets and glossy reports? What if conventional venture models have become a treadmill? A place where chasing the next unicorn means stepping over real innovation and sticking to what's safe enough to pass the committee. You're stuck funding startups that tune their pitches to the status quo, stuck reacting to trends instead of creating them. Meanwhile, uncomfortable truths get ignored. Real transformation gets sidelined. Your capital moves fast, but your impact feels slow. You're watching innovation dilute instead of explode. Now imagine flipping the script. Imagine becoming the wild card. The one who doesn't just fund the ventures, but demands ventures that disrupt the entire system. Where your investments don't just chase growth, but challenge growth itself. Where you aren't just a silent partner, but a force that shifts culture, challenges norms, and unleashes creators who aren't afraid to burn what's comfortable to build what's necessary. Imagine using your role not for safe bets, but for seismic change. This isn't theory, it's happening. Around the world, limited partners are waking up to the realization that the future of venture isn't in repeating old patterns, it's in breaking them. They are pushing funds to look beyond the usual suspects, to invest in ideas that don't fit neatly into existing categories. They demand transparency, accountability, and alignment that goes beyond money, where investments serve a greater purpose than quarterly returns. They recognize the power of patience, to play the long game, to fuel transformations that unfold slowly but burn deep. These LPs understand that real change is messy, complicated, and uncomfortable, and they're ready for that fight. Here's another truth. The startups that attract your money are often products of your own constraints. You select for metrics, for traction, for narratives that feel familiar. But those metrics and narratives have been designed by people who want stability, not revolution. To unlock true innovation requires that you, as limited partners, create room for the weird, the wild, and the unexpected. You must fund the founders who don't fit your neat checklists, and then back them up relentlessly. You must tolerate failure not as a risk, but as the cost of transformation. You must demand that fund managers stop chasing the herd and start igniting fires on the edges where real change begins. Bold ideas? Bold. They don't come from the center of comfort. They come from the edges of discomfort. They come from people who burn instead of bend, Your role is not to force these creators into boxes that fit your portfolio. Your role is to ignite those boxes and watch what takes shape outside the lines. When limited partners take that role seriously, the venture ecosystem can shift from a cycle of mimicry to a movement of becoming. It's messy, it's raw, it's revolutionary. But let's be honest, this path isn't easy. It's lonely, it's risky, it requires patience that the market often doesn't reward. It demands vision that looks beyond the next quarter or even the next decade. It requires you to shed illusions of control and embrace uncertainty, because true innovation doesn't follow rules. It makes you uncomfortable because genuine progress challenges what you always thought was possible, who you thought you were, and what the system told you to expect. This is the rebellion you can lead, the rebellion not against startups, but against the limiting narratives of venture itself. And here's what's most powerful. When this kind of disruption happens, it doesn't just shift markets, it rewires entire mindsets. Suddenly, startups won't just be chasing funding, they'll be chasing transformation. Funds won't just be chasing returns, but meaning. Limited partners won't just be numbers on a spreadsheet, but architects of tomorrow. What that means for you is simple but profound. Your influence becomes your legacy. Every dollar becomes a spark. Every decision becomes a stance. Every partnership becomes an act of rebellion against stagnation. You're no longer just playing the game, you're changing it. You're no longer just cheering from the sidelines. You're crafting an ecosystem where the few who burn can finally set the world on fire. Here's a concrete step to start this transformation today. Stop saying yes to the comfortable and start saying yes to the uncomfortable. Start asking fund managers the questions no one else will. Who are the founders you're scared of? Which ideas are too risky? What opportunities are you ignoring because they don't fit your models? Demand transparency that goes deeper than metrics. Demand stories about struggle, about failure, about radical vision. Push your funds to pilot experiments, even if they fail. Demand patience, not speed. Fight for diversification that goes beyond sectors and stages into styles of thinking and ways of being. Another step, find your fellow disruptors, limited partners who are done playing the passive role. Connect, align, and create a web of support that understands this isn't just about money. It's about a mission bigger than all of us. When LPs come together with that clarity, the impact multiplies exponentially, breaking old barriers and creating new spaces where true innovation thrives. Most importantly, remember this. To disrupt venture more than startups ever did, you must first disrupt yourself. Shake off complacency. Burn your comfort zones. Unlearn what the system sold you as truth. Claim your freedom not as a passive observer, but as a sovereign force that shapes the future out of radical choice and uncompromising practice. The next revolution in venture won't come from a product, a pitch, or a new software. It'll come from the limited partners who realize that their power is greater than the sum of their checks, who know that by choosing where and how to put their capital, they can spark a wildfire that no startup alone could ignite. This moment is yours. It's raw. It's real. It's revolutionary. Step into that power. Make the choice to disrupt not just venture, but the very way venture thinks about power, risk, and potential. Because the only thing more powerful than startups is the force that fuels them, and that force is you. Don't settle for being part of the system. Be the spark that sets the system ablaze, and watch how quickly the world changes when the few who burn refuse to bend.